What's up, everyone? Josh White here, and just wrapped up an episode of the HeroFront podcast with my friend and mentor, Master Sergeant Amanda Smith-Taylor. I asked her to be on the podcast because she recently, about 6 months ago, was selected as the Wing Career Assistance Advisor. Now, this is a resource that every airman needs to know about. It helped me retrain out of age into public health, and it can help many other airmen retrain, PME opportunities, or if they want to become an officer. If any of those apply to you, please check this episode out. But not only did she explain the position, she goes into the behind the scenes. What does it mean to her as a person? Look, she's the real deal. She actually cares about her airmen like they're her own family. And it has always inspired me and fired me up. Without further ado, this is my friend, Sergeant Smith-Taylor, on the top 5 lessons learned as the Wing Career Assistance Advisor. Let's get after it. What's up, everyone? Josh White here. We're going to find out today what the job entails and how someone like her can help you out with your Air Force career. But what I did not tell you, even before this interview, is that I'm going to put you through the Hero's Gauntlet, which are questions that I just came up with before we hopped on here.
Awesome.
So first question, what superhero do you connect with the most?
I'm going to go cliche, but I'm going to say Wonder Woman.
I don't think that's too cliche. I mean, Wonder Woman's a badass.
She is. My daughter thinks that I look like her, so I'm going to take that.
Oh, nice.
But yeah, she's trying to soften me up for something. But yeah, just not being afraid to be that strong female presence. Have
you seen Superhero Girls on Netflix?
No.
So it's a new cartoon about all the superhero girls are in high school together, and Wonder Woman's kind of like their ringleader, and she is nuts in that show. Like, they did a great job. Like, she's my favorite character, hands down. So I'd highly recommend that cartoon.
Is that something I can watch with Amelia?
It's on Netflix. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I'll have to watch
like it.
Probably.
Okay. Question number 2. What quote do you live by?
From Saint Francis of Assisi, start by doing what's necessary, then do what's possible, and suddenly you are doing the impossible.
Oh, dang, I like that. That's deep.
It's not too deep for me, but yeah, it is one of those, like, I think gets people really out of their, for me, out of my shell and out of my comfort zone. And knowing that you can kind of just take one step at a time and you're where you never thought you would be.
Progress.
Yes.
Okay. No, I love that. That's great. And I love how, like, there's always that quote that everyone has that you have to remind yourself of sometimes, sometimes you have to just sit back and be like, let me read that quote again.
Yes. Yep.
All right. Number 3, where do you hope to be at the end of your career?
Well, I hope to be ready to what I call be an adult on my own after it'll be 20 plus years at the end of my career, just confident, prepared to step into the next chapter and start a whole new life, a whole new career, and hopefully continue to be able to support my family and keep them happy and healthy. Easy.
Nice. I like it. All right. Number 4, what is your proudest Air Force moment?
I think I have 2. The first one, funny enough, is just graduating basic. My family showed up to basic training not knowing if they were going to see me. Ran into some issues while I was there. So just getting through basic was one. So you're looking at 18 years ago when that happened, more than that now. But, and then when I made master, I never thought it was possible. I thought that tech sergeant was where I was going to end. Never stop trying. And obviously you never stop giving the Air Force everything you have. But when they handed me that stripe, I said some words because I just was completely shocked. And yeah, that was probably a big one.
So as we both know, in the Air Force, they've made Master Sergeant really hard to get these days. So how did you pull that off?
So I made it the last year of testing. So maybe it wasn't as difficult as it would be now, but just doing my job and doing it to the best that I possibly could. And at that point, I had started to learn how to take care of those around me and realize that it's not just Sergeant Smith Taylor making it happen. It's all of her airmen, the NCOs beside her making it happen. And so kind of showing that teamwork on everything and just, again, kicking butt at your job.
Nice. I think for me, because I struggle with it, straight up, I struggle with it big time. And I was just hell bent on making it by like the third year that I tried. And I did everything I was supposed to, and it still didn't happen. And then at that point, I just changed my whole mindset, pretty much gave up on it and said, I think there's such a thing as trying too hard.
100%.
And I think when you're at that point, it rubs people the wrong way, and it's just not going to work out, when you're trying that hard.
Right.
And then once I, flipped that switch and I just tried to make everyone around me better, magically it happened. I don't think that's a coincidence.
Nope. I am a firm believer in teamwork, no matter what. I grew up playing sports. It has just been drilled into me, and it continues. And I would not be where I am if it were not for anybody that I worked with throughout my career.
Definitely. And then I have one bonus question here that came up when I was reading that form that I had you fill out, which you didn't complete, but that's okay.
It's okay. Don't judge me.
The one thing that threw me on there was that it said you don't like confrontation. And you're a tough New England gal. I wouldn't want to piss you off. I was kind of surprised to see that. What's the story behind that?
Even thinking about it right now, I'm sweating. Don't know. I don't know if it's because I'm the firstborn and like I'm just this people pleaser and I just want to make sure like everybody's happy. And so therefore, if we're having a confrontation and that means that you're not happy with me, yeah, I don't do well. And what's funny is my husband brought that up the other day because he said every time he meets, and like if he goes to a work function, they're like, "Oh my gosh, you're married to Sergeant Smith Taylor? She's so scary." But I'm like, I don't think that I'm very scary. I don't know if it's my face. I don't know what it is.
It's that New England accent.
I guess so. But I try to be as open, and I don't want to say accommodating, but you have to be accommodating to some level, especially, when it comes to taking, care of other people. But yeah, I hate telling people no. I hate having to kind of, I don't know. I can't fully explain why I don't like it, but it just sends me over the edge.
The simple answer is you're a people pleaser. I mean, that's really
100%. Yeah.
That's the simple answer. And I'm a people pleaser too. I think it's like, your biggest strength and your biggest weakness kind of thing. And I read somewhere that like children of divorce turn into people pleasers. I don't know if that's true, but I mean, that's, maybe somewhere to look. I don't know.
No, my mom, I've been this way since so who knows?
Okay, so throw that theory out the window.
Throw that one out.
So I knew you at Luke Air Force Base.
Yes.
And at Whiteman Air Force Base. But when we first met, it was at Luke Air Force Base. And I was pretty scared of you, straight up. Yeah. And I think, looking back, I think it's because you were put under a tremendous amount of pressure to basically fix a neglected program, which is always stressful. And I think you were just so stressed about that it came off as you were angry. That's my best guess. But I was always like,
Could be.
I gotta be nice to this lady. Like
Yeah, it's, I'm definitely, if an AFI tells me to do it, I'm doing it. And that, like you said, that was my job when you met me, was to get that program back up and running. And so to me, it was kind of, I had to put the fun and games to the side and get that job done. But then, we started talking and you started to get to know me, and I'm not that bad.
I really got to know you at Whiteman.
Yeah.
Because when you go to a new base, you don't expect to see someone so that jumped out at me right away. So
Right.
I'm really glad I got to know you, though. You're not mean. You're super nice. Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So let's before we hit those top 5 lessons learned from being a career assistant advisor, let's hear your Air Force story a little bit on how you got to this point in your career.
Okay. So I started off like everybody, going to basic training. I really don't want to say the date, but I went October 8th of 2002. Seems like a long time ago, but at the same time, it doesn't. So after that, I was a weapons troop, so aircraft armament systems. And my first base was Davis-Monthan in Tucson. And while I was there for 2 years, we deployed to Bagram. Did some damage there. It was a great learning experience. I was able to go off base one time and kind of see how females were treated there. It was very eye-opening. It made me even more happy to be born where I was. And then I went to RAF Lakenheath from there, which is in England, and I was there for 7 years. And I met my husband there, who is British, and we had our 2 kids. And then after 7 amazing years there, I retrained into education and training, and went to Luke, which obviously is where I met Josh. And I was a training manager for a whole bunch of different sections, squadrons, units, whatever, groups. And after an amazing 4 years in the beautiful Phoenix weather, they decided that Whiteman Air Force Base needed Tech Sergeant Amanda Smith Taylor, and we came on over to Missouri. And I was a training manager for a couple of units. I was able to be the superintendent for maintenance training, which was amazing. Able to have an impact on, 1,800 airmen in the maintenance careers service in the wonderful B2, right? Doing the flyovers and stuff like that. So that was kind of cool. And then I was given the opportunity to continue to try to take care of airmen in being able to apply for the career assistance job, which is a special duty. And so I had to put in my package. I had to be interviewed, which was very scary because I had never interviewed in my whole life, right? Because I came in, never had to, didn't have to interview for anything. So, but I took that job over in August, and it has been amazing. I'm extremely happy to be in this job, and I am glad that I'll be able to finish my career in this position and hopefully do some good while I'm here.
That's awesome. Yeah. Speaking of which, you mentioned that your husband, you met him in England.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think I ever met him at Luke. I don't think I ever saw him, but at Whiteman, we ran into each other at Buffalo Wild Wings, which, in Warrensburg, Missouri, was a big deal. Like before, you have to drive an hour away. So to have, B-dubs right there is pretty awesome. And then, I held the door, and he's like, "Oh, thank you, mate." And I'm like, what in the what? You messing with me?
Yeah, no, he's not.
No, he's legit. He is from England, and he talks really cool. And
yes.
He's a great guy.
Mm-hmm. We met playing rugby. I used to play rugby. So maybe that's why people are scared of me. I don't know.
That's like the most England romance story I've ever heard.
I mean, and in a pub, in the rugby club pub, that's where we met. I mean, you
Doesn't
really
get
can't
any
get
more British than that. That's it. Okay, so for those listening who are not familiar with a wing career assistance advisor, otherwise known as a CAA, can you fill us in on what that job is?
So it's a lot, different, all different parts. So the main one that everybody kind of thinks of when they think of the career advisor is retraining, which is helping, somebody get a different career path. Maybe they've grown up, they've changed, and they want a different job. Maybe they can no longer do the job that they signed up for. So we try to get them into a different job. So that's one thing that I help with, and airmen come in and I counsel them. I also oversee FTAC, which is the first term airman course. So I have somebody that works for me, and they run that 5-day course for the brand new airmen when they get to Whiteman. I also oversee and sometimes facilitate, depends on what's needed, the Airman Professional Enhancement Seminar, the non-commissioned officer professional enhancement, and then the senior non-commissioned officer professional enhancement. So those are kind of the 4 main professional development type classes that I would oversee. And then when units ask, when things come up across the base that maybe we need a little bit more attention to, I normally will have my hands in that. So just recently, one of the units, they are kind of standing down certain days of the week, and they wanted to cover some different professional development ones. And one of them was retraining, and nothing against any senior leaders, but they just asked for my slides. And I said, hey, nope, I got this. I will go ahead and I will brief it. So I conducted 7 retraining briefs in one day. So it was a lot of talking, but it was 100% worth it because the units needed it. So.
Dang, that's awesome. So lots of helping airmen, lots of coordinating developmental events.
Yes.
And you're kind of located in the perfect spot because you have an auditorium in that building. FTAC's right next door to you, I think, where you're sitting. So that's awesome.
Yeah, the biggest, I will say, just to plug, the biggest job for a career advisor is the counseling. I have a couch and a window. Okay. I think I have made it in the Air Force. I have a couch and a window in my office. It took me a while, but I got it right. But I always offer that to airmen if they're not sure where they're wanting to go in the Air Force. And they can just come and sit and talk it out, and we can, figure it out together. So it doesn't mean like I'm going to help them, just leave all of their leadership behind. It's let's find out what's best for you and continuing in the Air Force.
So your job really is to keep them in the Air Force.
If that's what's best for them. The
Right.
airmen are what important to me, and what my job is the airmen.
So when they come and see you, do they realize they're going to be spending a lot of time like talking to you and kind of having to express themselves and open up to you? Like, do they know that coming in, or is that something that just kind of naturally happens?
I think you'll obviously get some airmen that will just word vomit to you, right? And they'll tell you everything that you need to know. And then you have others that will just ask you very pointed questions. Hey, this is what I want to do. How do I do it? And then you help them from there. But when you get somebody who maybe can't go the path that they were hoping to go, that's when we can really sit down and be like, okay, hey, what if this can't happen? What can we do? Or, hey, you still have 2 years until you're eligible to retrain. What can we do for the next 2 years to keep you from being miserable, still having a great impact on in the work center, maybe outside of the work center? What can we do to, help build you, right? And help strengthen you.
Like there's a lot you can do in a job you don't like and use that time wisely versus being miserable every single day and wanting to quit.
Yep, exactly.
So you help keep their head in the game.
I try, but I also, I'm not going to tell them, oh, just suck it up, you'll be fine. I have built a great relationship with our in-service recruiters here at Whiteman. And I would like to assume that that's kind of how it is in other bases, because what if active duty is not right for them? What if that doesn't help them achieve their goals? Maybe going to the Guard or Reserve units will help them, right? And
Definitely.
so giving them options, and then sometimes, having to give it to them straight and being like, hey, I don't think, I don't think we're headed in the right direction, or it's going to happen. So.
Right. And for anyone that hasn't retrained, I retrained. I used to be AIDS, now I'm public health. And the reason this job that she's describing is so important is because typically when you retrain for the first time, you have no idea how to, it's one of those things that sounds really simple, but then when you actually try to do it, you realize you have no clue even where to start at all. Like, what are the rules? Like, when can I
Right.
retrain? Where's this website? What documents do I need? How do I know what jobs are available? Like it's very overwhelming, and you have a small little window of time to make that happen. So, definitely use the CAA on your base if retraining is on your mind at any point in your career. Okay. So let's go into the top 5 lessons learned. So what is the first lesson learned here?
The need for preparation and research.
Preparation and research. Okay, let's hear it.
Yes. So mainly with retraining, and this is where I always really beg for leadership for any NCOs, even airmen to airmen. As soon as they hear somebody talking about wanting to retrain, I always say your next sentence needs to be, have you talked to Sergeant Smith Taylor? Because if I can get an airman into my office and we can go through what is needed, if they're in their window, like you talked about, there's an 8-month window, and 8 months honestly goes pretty fast when you think about it. And so if I can get them in the office and we can go line by line to make sure that either they meet the requirements, they're in their window, the job is available, right? Because like you said, you have to go to all these sites, right? And you have to look up all these different requirements, and that's my job, right? I know where to go to. I can read between the lines and things like that. And so I was working with an airman today. I did a little Zoom meeting with her because she's on maternity leave and she is looking at retraining. And when I went through to, see when her window was, it doesn't open until October of this year. And I was like, but this is perfect because it gives you all of that time to get ready and to really know what you want to do. Because some people, they'll just be like, oh, I just want to retrain. And then they come and see me and they only have 2 months left in their window. And now we're trying to rush around, to make sure that we have everything. So
gotcha. So you research and prepare yourself, and then you help them do the same, really.
Yes, exactly. And I really enjoy working with the airmen through the process. I am very, I guess, old school in that way. My grays start to show when that happens because I like to show them the sites that I go to. I like to show them what documents I'm looking at to find this information, and then that way, when they're not in my office, they know where to get it, and then they can continue their research, their preparation. They can share information and hopefully not have, a situation where the airman just stops trying to retrain or just gives up because they don't know what to do. And so with that, with the preparation and research, there's a quiz out there on MyPERS, which I'll talk about MyPERS in a minute, but there's a new test. It's called the Air Force Work Interest Navigator. I don't know how new it is, but they talked to us about it in our training. and it's 50 something questions, and it helps you see like the jobs that you're best paired with, basically. And a lot of times that's a great starting point for airmen, because maybe they came in just to get a job, you know what I mean, with whatever job the Air Force gave them.
Is this a quiz that's like based on your response, these jobs would be good for you?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Right.
That's
Okay.
really helpful, because for one, they don't even know all the jobs that are out there. So
yeah,
that could be
there's
pretty eye-opening.
136 jobs.
Wow.
Yes. And so, yeah, I took mine in July just because, you know, I can't expect somebody to do something if I haven't done it, right. And I don't know, I wouldn't be able to explain it to them if I hadn't done it. And so
what was your number one job?
Religious affairs.
Oh, nice.
Yes. So, and then,
see, you are nice. Though, I knew it.
See, I know, right? Number 5 was education and training, which was the job that I did for 8 years before. And because I was just curious, I went to go and look what armament systems would have been. And it was 25 out of 136. So honestly, I didn't do too shabby at 17 years old picking my job. But, right, I changed at 26. It wasn't what I wanted to be doing anymore. But anyway, so it'll ask you questions like, I enjoy working outside. And it's got the 5 answers that we're used to, you know, strongly agree, neutral, disagree, and strongly disagree. And so you just go through and you answer all those questions that way. And it'll give you like a percentage of how well you're matched with that job. And then it also gives you a very brief description of the job. And it will also give you like where the tech school is and how long the tech school is. And then there's some other little filters in there, like they can put their ASVAB scores in there to see if they need to retake an ASVAB, if their scores aren't high enough for a job that they really want to do.
Wow, that is super helpful. Like I had to find all that out through basically trial and error, you know, back when I retrained. But I think it brings up another good point. The process and the resources are always changing. Mm-hmm. So when airmen ask me, how'd you retrain? I'm like, don't ask me. Like
yes, 100%.
Whatever I did is not happening now. I can tell you that. So
yep, exactly.
Okay. So let's go to lesson number 2.
Mm-hmm. And what you were saying about the resources always changing, that leads us right into number 2, and that is the use of MyPERS, which off the Air Force portal, right? We have a link to it. I call it the Air Force Google, because if there's any sort of program out there, you can type it in the search bar of MyPERS and it will bring it up. So if somebody was looking into commissioning, they could put commissioning program up in the top, and the personnel delivery guides will come up, all of those all of that type of information. But MyPERS is the main site where you can get into information about education. You can get information on like retirement, promotions, reenlistments, everything. And obviously the little retraining button is on there too. And so when you click on the retraining, that's where you'll get all the other tools needed to help you prepare and help you research, you know, to start retraining. And that's where you'll find that Air Force Work Interest Navigator is on that retraining page of MyPERS. But the use of MyPERS, I don't want to say it's scary, because I remember being, you know, a senior airman and just kind of going through the motions and listening to my leadership, and whatever they said went, and I wasn't going to question them because, hey, they've been in longer than me, right? They know more than me. But getting them to know, hey, MyPERS is out there and anybody can go on there. And if you want to learn something about whatever program, just type it in and you'll find it.
Nice. I like that. The Google for the Air Force. That's, I've never heard it said that way, but you know, that does paint a picture.
I use it. Yeah. I use it a lot. I'm trying to get more educated on commissioning programs, and I'm on MyPERS all the time. So.
Awesome. Okay. Yes. I'm on MyPERS often too, not for the same reasons, but I mean, there's so many different,
Yep.
reasons you would be on that program.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's roll into lesson number 3. What is it?
Being able to work through situations, or maybe willing to work through situations. Only 6 months, and not one single airman that has come into my office is going through the same thing. And like we talked about in the beginning, what my job is being able to just sit there and listen to them and see what they need. And whether they are retraining in their window, or maybe they're not because they were deployed, or maybe they had been picked up for retraining and then they got an assignment and their assignment trumps their retraining. But now they still want to retrain after they get to their new assignment. So just being willing, taking it step by step, right? And getting that very foundation of knowledge to see where you have to go in order to support that airman. And sometimes it's not pretty. I just had one recently where I looked through the documentation and I was lost. And this airman attempted to retrain back in 2019. But because she got so confused and nobody was helping her, she just stopped. And now she's come back and she says, I still want to retrain. This is still something that I want to do. So, okay, let's work through it. Let's see what our options are. And, we're doing an exception to policy letter for her as well. Well, her and her commander, obviously.
So it sounds like what you're saying is there's no A, B, C, D steps. There's no straight line. Here's step 1, here's step 2.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't exist. It's going to be a different process for everyone's situation and what they're trying to achieve.
Right. So you'll have you'll have one, steps 1 through 10 or whatever, but then you'll have some airmen might need to go to step 1.3, right? And then other ones might, so they kind of, end up almost doing that tree effect. Like, this is where you want to start, right? And we just want to go down and down, but we might have to veer and do, some side roads and some off-roading, but we'll eventually get back on that path.
So I remember from my own experience, I wish I remembered all of them, but I don't, but I hit roadblock after roadblock after roadblock.
Right.
And I feel like someone like you in your position you're helping them get past these roadblocks that are bound to happen.
Yes.
And I've heard the same is true for trying to be an officer too. A lot of people run into roadblocks on that route as well. Yeah,
that commissioning is, it's a whole other, I don't want to call it a can of worms, but it is. Unfortunately, it's like I said, I'm still trying to learn it, but it seems like there are so many veering roads that, yes, people they get frustrated. But I will say the education office, especially at Whiteman, they are great with helping airmen through figuring out maybe what's the right path for commissioning. But yeah, I 100% agree with that statement.
So yeah, I definitely appreciate, someone in your position to help with that, because what you don't want is kind of what you described. You run into that roadblock or confusion, and that airman sits on that information. Suddenly they're not in their window anymore, and they didn't even realize it.
Right.
So you help them get past these roadblocks so you can get them to where they want to go with that small window. So that's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. What's the next one? What's number 4?
So this one, we're going to stay positive on this one.
Okay.
But it is the supervisor and leadership impact that they can have on these airmen. And again, there's going to be no finger pointing, because we're human. We all make mistakes. This is everything from just not supporting the airmen, from giving them bad information. And sometimes giving that bad information is not any fault of theirs. It's maybe what they knew, maybe what they went through when they were going through whatever. But yeah, just like I said, not supporting, not giving them information, and then just not being helpful. And this can be even not with retraining. This is for professional development as a whole, because the Airman Professional Enhancement course that Whiteman offers is not mandatory for airmen. It is something that we offer once an airman has been on base for 2 years, or after FTAC, I should say, after they complete FTAC, 2 years. But it just gives them a little bit of an opportunity to get back to some of the information that they need to be a great airman, and remind them of the services that the base has to support them. But with something that's not mandatory, having leadership back them and allow them to go to these classes to better themselves, which hopefully ends up bettering the work center. I mean, in my mind, that's how it should work and would work.
When I think about my own story again with retraining, I know exactly what you're talking about. And I think there's a good way for a supervisor to handle an airman trying to change their career, and there's a bad way to handle it, right?
Right.
And from my own personal experience, and I tell all the airmen that want to retrain this right here, and I'm sure you do too, and that is, if you're on the path to retrain, I always warn them on how they present that idea back in the workplace.
Yes.
Because what you don't want to do is give them the impression that you think that current job is beneath them, and that this other job, is just better for personal reasons, right? Like, you're giving them the vibe that you're too good to be there. That's what I warn them on.
Yes. You do not want to burn bridges, because, you never, what if you don't make it through tech school? Guess what? You're going right back to where you were, and, having to work with these guys and girls. But, that on that path that you were talking about with how they're talking back in their units, I foot stomp communication so many times when I talk about retraining, or anything career based. Because what I remind these airmen is that it is not my career, it's their career. It's not my career. It's not their supervisor's career. We are here to help support them and guide them in that career. I'm going to give you the guidance that you need, and what you do with it is all on you. But if I don't know what you need, if I don't know your goals in the Air Force for the work center, right, or just for yourself, I can't help you if you don't communicate with me on that. So when an airman is talking about retraining, the first question I ask is, have you talked to your supervisor about this? Being a supervisor, there's nothing worse than being blindsided by, a retraining package, or maybe a package to go guard or reserve, getting up to the chief, and then the chief calls you into your office and is like, hey, what's this about? And you have to say, I don't know, chief, but I'm going to find out. So I definitely hound on communication, and I think it does need to go both ways. It needs to be positive communication. It needs to have a goal at the end of it. It can't just be, I want to be a recruiter. Okay, well, what can we do to help you become a recruiter? Right? You being honor guard for so long, hey, if you have airmen that are working for you now and they're like, hey, I would like to do honor guard, what can you tell me about it? And then the two of you can work through that, right, to get them to that point.
Yeah, definitely. I always like, an airman just asked me, he wants to be in EO, equal opportunity, for the Air Force, and he asked for any advice on retraining, and I told him, let your leadership know, let your supervisor know. Do not hide the fact that you want to do this retrain.
Right.
But when you present it to them, I want you to present it in a way where you talk about why you're passionate, that you love your current job, but because of certain life situations that you've been through, you are very passionate about this career field.
Yes.
You feel like it's your purpose for a career field like that. And if you angle it that way, who's going to be mad at that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
And exactly. And that's, when I left weapons, it wasn't that I didn't like the job. I missed my guys more than I can say. Granted, I can wear jewelry every day and not get, I don't have to worry about anything, but I do miss that camaraderie that I had in the unit. But I also knew that my skills would be better used in a different job, and that was education and training. And now, if I would not have been in that education and training job, I don't think I ever would have been a career advisor, because I realized that I wanted to, well, first, that I actually liked people and that I wanted to help them. And so now I can do that. But like you said, the goal of the airmen, what they want to accomplish. And then also, how does that help the Air Force? How does that make the Air Force better? If you have an airman that's maintenance, let's just say, but they're going to college for communications, and they're talking about retraining into some comm job, why not support them? It's only going to make the Air Force better, because that person wants to be in that type of job, has outside education. So the amount of knowledge that they're going to be bringing in and being able to continue to build on is just, the outcome, I just don't think would be negative at all.
Yeah, I don't think, if you don't allow someone to retrain, the chances of them staying in are very low, right?
Sometimes,
they get
yes.
certifications and degrees in a whole nother career field. Why on earth would they
Right.
stay? So for me personally, yeah, I'm more of an admin and communicator, and that's where my strengths are.
Right.
I am really thankful for my experience in maintenance, because it was probably my weakest area, and I learned a lot.
Right.
But I knew it wasn't for me forever, and the retrain is kept me in. I'm going to stay in as long as I can now. It totally changed my life. And
Right.
otherwise, after 6 years in the Air Force, I would have been gone. But instead, the retrain went through. I had this second opportunity in the Air Force, and here I am, 16 years in, trying to make the Air Force as best as it can be. And, none of that would have been possible without the retrain. So it's super important to find jobs that people are passionate about. I love that.
Definitely.
All right. So that brings us to number 5, the 5th lesson learned from being a CAA, the impact that this role has had on your life.
Yes. So I will just say that I'll put it out there. I am an introvert, painfully sometimes. And this job has definitely made me come out of my shell a little bit more. I'm exhausted when I come home every day, but to me, it is 100% worth it. If I can just connect with one airman, big A airman, right, a day, or in a counseling session or in a class, whatever that may be, then it's worth it. But it does take a lot, and getting up in front of people and talking, right, about programs, things that can really affect and impact their career in or out of the Air Force, because we also talk about informed decisions before they re-enlist for their first and second time. And that information is vital for them either staying or going. If they don't know what is available to them, they might, just continue to not know, and then they're worse off when they get out. But like I said, just kind of learning on how to be more out there, I guess, because I'm also having to network a whole lot more, which has never really been my thing. But with all the professional development courses that we offer, I need to get knowledgeable, high performing NCOs and senior NCOs to come in and talk to the people on base. And if I don't network, if I don't talk to these people, how am I supposed to know whether or not they should be briefing? And also having to work with wing leadership, which is a whole new ball game for me. And my old schoolness, comes out a whole lot because, I see a chief, I see a colonel, I see a general, and I immediately, oh my gosh, I don't want to say anything stupid, or I have, you go back to your airman days and just remember, be respectful, be professional, and you start getting all nervous and everything. So just working with all different people across base has definitely had an impact on me, for sure.
Dang, so it took your introverted nature, and you realized real quick that you're going to have to, flip a switch and be a little bit more extroverted if you're going to make yourself known and your presence known. And you have to make your presence known. Otherwise, you're not going to get any airmen asking for help if they don't know you exist.
Right. Exactly. Yep. And, we talked about in the beginning, one of my, or what I consider one of my, biggest struggles is confrontation, and being that people pleaser. I've had a couple of airmen in my office that I've had to tell them there's nothing that we can do. And having to see them leave my office defeated is like the worst feeling in the world. And so, trying to just work with them on, hey, okay, what else can we do? Okay, what can we do to get you to at least your separation date? What can we get to finish this enlistment? What can we do so that you're not miserable? Hey, what do you do outside of work? What do you do outside of Whiteman? What's your passions? And so working through saying no, but also giving options on, okay, it's a no, but maybe we can work on this instead. So
yeah, it's probably gut wrenching if you see someone leave that office, feeling like,
yes,
they had a plan and now they have no plan.
Yep. As a mom, I just think if that was one of my kids and they were extremely unhappy and there's nothing that can be done. So, you have to keep mama bear at bay, and just realize that it's unfortunately not in the cards.
And so you kind of have to be like a life coach in a way. I mean, really, you have to keep hope alive
for sure.
by having them realize that there's so many other options that still exist. It's just this one didn't pan out, and how to get them get their head back in the game.
Yeah, exactly.
I think all the DSD, all the special duties have that in common, where there's one of you and tons of airmen all relying on you. All the special duties kind of have that in common with each other. And that's one thing I did not expect, when I had my own special duty, is the insane amount of time that I got to spend just hearing anything and everything. I mean,
right.
You're basically a guidance counselor in any of these in any of these special duties. You're going to be a guidance counselor, because a lot of these airmen don't have anyone in their life they can talk to at all.
Right. Yeah.
So like sometimes it leads to some crazy places and stories, and suddenly you're just that person that is there for them in that moment.
Right.
I'm sure you've had that happen too.
Yes, very recently too. And it's, it eats at you. They tell you, you leave work at work. But when you start, I sat with this airman more than one time. So, you know what I mean? I sat with him probably for a good 4 hours altogether. We, and out, you know, through messages and stuff like that too, just to keep up and just knowing the story, family situation, and it eats you alive. You're like, okay, you know what else can we do? What's another option? And so you just, you know, try to keep working other options. And like I said, it maybe staying in the Air Force is not something that we can do, but okay, what can we do to set you up for when you have to separate or when you have to get out? What can we do so that they're not just going off into the blue yonder, right? And all right, thanks for your 4 years, thanks for your 6 years, good luck. That's not how it should be at all. And treating them, you know, reminding them, hey, you're a person, you're not just a number that the Air Force has. You are a person. What can I do to help that person?
Well, I love that you have this job because, you know, you kind of treat them like your own family is what it sounds like. And I don't think there's any bigger compliment than, you know, having someone treat you like family. I think that to me is the gold standard. So yeah, that's awesome. I feel like they're in great hands.
Thank you.
And the question I have is, do you have any, I know I already asked what your proudest Air Force moment is, but do you have a proudest CAA moment?
You know, I am trying to get these airmen, like I said, in my office before they make any movements on their career path, right? Because I want to make sure that they're ready. And so I have been asking, hey, if you hear it, give them my information. Hey, if you hear it, give them my information. And I had an airman come in this week and I was like, hey, go ahead and take my card just in case you need to contact me. And he goes, you know what? My supervisor gave me your card and they said that I needed to talk to you. And I was like, oh my gosh, I got one, you know? And so you just got to keep, you know, hoping that you keep get the one and people are, you know, they're communicating, you know, what it is, you know? And so I think, for me, I'm going to take those small little wins. And like I said, in a couple of months, maybe you can come back and ask me that question. And maybe those two big exception to policy letters that we're trying to push, if they, you know, they get approved and you know, we can set these airmen on a whole different path. But I absolutely I love having this job. I 100% wouldn't want to spend the last 3 years of my career doing anything else. I can say that for sure.
You get to be there for them.
Yes.
In a way that nobody else can be.
Yeah. It's been amazing. I didn't think I was going to be let go from my career field because they weren't letting masters go. And so, like we talked about, that supervision, you know, that supervisory impact, my supervisor was like, hey, Amanda, you put that package in, put it in. And I was like, okay. And then I was talking to my training manager leadership and they were like, nope, you'd be perfect for that job. We're going to go ahead and talk to the career field manager. And so just knowing that I had that backing made me a little bit more, I guess, confident in, hey, you know what, you can do this job. You can talk to people. It's not that bad. And just having that opportunity, like you said, to impact these airmen, even if it's just one, I will take it.
Wow. You are definitely perfect for the job. Shout out to your supervision for letting you go. That is hard to do. And it sounds like they did their job in putting the right person in the right place at the right time. So I know that the airmen are in amazing hands, and that's because you lead from the heart, you actually care. And a lot of these airmen, they don't have someone who actually cares, or at least they don't see it sometimes. And I feel like anyone who you take into your office and sit them down, they're going to get the Sergeant Smith Taylor treatment and you're going to treat them, you know, like one of your own. And I think that's incredible. I think you've probably impacted and changed a lot of lives. So I'm proud of you. I'm proud to have known you. That's why I asked you to be on here, because I've, you know, you're just an awesome person. So thank you
Well, thank you, Josh. I
Yeah, of
appreciate it.
course. Thanks for your time. And that is it, folks. That's a wrap. That was the top 5 lessons learned from Amanda here for being the special duty of the Whiteman Air Force Base Career Assistance Advisor. All right, y'all. Take care.